To action on Facebook, so let's get to it.
All right.
First one for you, Hunter Johnson, former Clemson quarterback,
Yeah.
2017 5-star, Penn State target at that point in time. He's transferring, leaving Clemson. To you, would it make sense for Penn State to go and try and get him on the roster? On one hand, you have Sean Clifford, you have Tommy Stevens, you have Will Levis, and you have Taquan Roberson, all coming for the battle to replace Trace McSorley.
Jake Zembeck.
It's
a crowded house, Greg. It's a crowded house.
So the question is this guy someone Penn State should look at to add to their quarterback room? Does it make sense? He was a very highly touted recruit.
Sure.
He was, behind Kelly Bryant, and I think he thinks he can play somewhere soon.
Yeah.
I don't know if Penn State would make any sense for him. But what do you think? Is it worth even looking into if you're Penn State or no?
I've heard already that a couple of Big Ten schools might be after him, and there might be some interest on his end. I think Purdue and maybe Northwestern.
Yep.
I think Northwestern has Clayton Thorson, but he's kind of getting on in years.
He has to be he's been there forever. It has to be his last
year.
Yeah,
and
right?
Jeff Brom is a former college quarterback, the Purdue coach, and I'm sure they're looking for an upgrade as well. I think it speaks more to what he sees. I don't know that if I was him, he just was behind a pretty good quarterback. I don't know that he wants to go to Penn State. There's a lot of bodies to step over to get that job. It might be easier at Northwestern or Purdue for sure. He's definitely going to play, but I don't know if that really makes sense from his perspective. I would be really surprised, let's put it that way, if they added him.
Yeah, I guess it would make sense in the standpoint of if you wanted the guy that was a little bit older and more experienced than what you have, but he was a 2017 recruit. It's not like this is a junior. Like if you don't, maybe you want someone to compete with Tommy Stevens that's a little bit older.
Yeah.
You could find that in the transfer market, and this guy's a city-year. So I guess the other question would be would you take him and then have him sit through the Stevens era and then see where things shake out on the other side? I don't think
He's already sat once, and I think Tommy Stevens' head might explode if they added another quarterback after they did the big deal about him looking around and deciding to stay. I think Penn State's pretty set at quarterback.
All right, Vince wants to know who will start for Penn State at running back. I think it's Miles Sanders. We'll be right down that list. Looking at a couple of these, what do you think Penn State's record will be? Who will they lose to?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long way out. There's a lot of things we don't know about Penn State or its opponents. But what is your sort of ballpark as you look at things right now? We talked a little bit earlier. September's going to be tough.
September's going to be tough, and just from a travel and a game time perspective, I mean, they're going to play Illinois on a Friday night, I believe.
Yes, correct. Yes, 8 p.m.
Late in September they get Ohio State here. It should be a night game. The Pitt game's now a night game. I don't necessarily know that Appalachian State is a team you want to open the season with, just because they're not really scared of anyone, and they do have some athletes. So I know that we just saw that I think they opened up as a 4-touchdown favorite. Penn State did, but I mean, there's something to be said for Appalachian State. They're not really scared to play good teams, and Penn State might have a little, especially breaking in some players on defense. They might have a little bit of a tussle on their hands there. To me, I think it is, since James Franklin's been here, this is his most challenging schedule. What they have going for them is almost all of their significant games are at home. The road trip at Michigan, to me, stands out like a game that I'm sure Michigan is going to be pointing to, especially now that Shea Patterson is eligible to play quarterback. I think that's big for their offense. And late in the season, I think they have to play a Wisconsin team that when you have an offensive line and a running game like that, they always travel well.
Yes.
And I do think that's the kind of team that, as long as they don't fall behind, they can give Penn State some trouble, just because their offensive line is probably going to have 3 or 4 players play in the NFL. They have 1 or 2 first-round picks, I believe, on that offensive line. I think it's a great schedule. I think if you're a Penn State fan, you should be excited about this home schedule. And I do think, top to bottom, this is the toughest schedule I think that Penn State's going to play under James Franklin.
Do you have an early prediction, win-loss?
I do think they are. I'm either going 9 or 10. Yeah. I do think the losses are significant. I do know it's great to have Trace McSorley back, and he's going to be a quarterback on the field, and I know they feel very good about some positions on defense. But when you play that many teams in the Big Ten that are pretty good, I think there is kind of a war of attrition, and you're not always going to bring your A game every Saturday. James Franklin talks about focus. It's about this team, and I know that he's got the team believing that. But I think you saw last year after the Ohio State game, I think Michigan State caught Penn State at a great time on the schedule.
Yeah.
And I felt like Penn State was the better team and just didn't win the game. And I think that will probably happen to Penn State once or twice. I do think the Michigan game probably, obviously Ohio State's going to be tough, but that Michigan game looks to me like it's going to be very tough as well.
All right, last one, Bob. Preseason rankings are starting to filter out.
Yes.
Penn State number 11 in the Athlon Sports poll that was released on Monday. Fair, unfair, or just right?
I think they're just outside the top 10 to start the year. They have a little bit of proving to do. James Franklin recently on his Caravan Stop said we're a top 10 program. But when you lose as many players and the quality of the players that they lost, and the schedule that they're playing, I just think that, in another year, maybe I would say having Trace McSorley in all these games at home is enough for them to make a serious run at the top, inside the top 10. I do think, though, that another 2-loss season is a real possibility, and if they don't get into the Big Ten title game, it's probably going to be tough to keep them inside the top 10. I think that's about right.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that, there's some teams always in preseason rankings that are a little bit higher and a little bit lower than they should be, but we've talked about this before, but anywhere between 9 and 12, I think it's fair to slot Penn State. You could say maybe, shuffling, because, the Athlon poll was Wisconsin that was a little bit ahead of them. Could them and Wisconsin flip-flop? Sure, but Wisconsin has the Taylor kid coming back at running back, the 4 or 5 line.
Alex Honeybrooks coming back?
Honeybrooks coming back as well, yeah, so we'll see. But
Orange Bowl MVP?
That is all the questions we have this week.
For now, but if we have another recruiting week like last week, there better be a lot more questions. Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to wait for the next big recruiting surge.
I think you're probably
for Penn State. 5 in 5 days, considering the caliber. That's got to be one of the better runs he's had since he's been here, James.
Yes, absolutely.
So
it's certainly among the best he's had in his career, and I think in terms of his years at Penn State, they've had some runs where they've gotten a lot of kids in a short amount of time, but when you talk about the overall quality of this group and how high they're rated, there's no doubt about it.
All right, that's a wrap then on the latest edition of the Penn State Blitz here on PennLive. Just want to I want to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day weekend.
That's right.